Best speaker ever.
That's it, thank you. Well, hi everybody. I'm just to give you a bit of intro. I'm an art science student. I'm actually working with language in my project, and what I'm going to be talking about is this theory that has been developed that is called the natural semantic metalanguage. Before I go into that, I would like just to give you a little overview of what the metalanguage is. So we of course have a problem that we cannot talk about language because we're using language to talk about language, so we cannot explain it because we're explaining it while we're talking about it. So, you can't really, it's like fish in the water that, doesn't get that it's in the water because it's in the water. So we can't, so we don't understand. So we're trying to explain the logics of language with language, and that's basically metalanguage. So the way metalanguage works is that it's another language structure that is used to explain the primary language structure, and it can go many ways. I want to point out to this really interesting natural semantic metalanguage that was developed in the 70s by Polish linguist Anna Wierzbicka in Warsaw in 1972, where she proposed that we can, that any language can be stripped down to primes and to basics. So everything that we ever talk about is basically 60 words or 60 primes or 60 concepts. So what she then started to work on after with Cliff Godard from the Griffith University in Australia is that they spent 30 years scanning the language and all of the words, trying to strip them down to their basic meaning, and then finally her first paper proposed 14 primes, then a bit gradually it increased, and now actually she published a paper last year where she says that there are actually 65 primes that we always talk about. What is really nice about this theory is that what they are saying is that these 60 and 65 primes are universal to any language. So anybody who speaks and is actually communicating in concepts is basically narrowing down to those basics. This language, welcome. So use no technical terms, no neologisms, no logical symbols, no abbreviations are allowed in the simpler modes of these words. So, semantic primes are essential for explicating the meaning of numerous other words and grammatical constructions, and they cannot themselves be explicated in a non-circular fashion. Their meanings are conceptually the same. That means, for instance, I, you, someone, something, this, happen, move, know, think, want, and so on cannot be explained without the usage of those very words. So if you want to explain the word move, you would come to the point that you would again use the word move to explain that you are moving, so you cannot really explain it with another word, so that's a prime. And so you have the equivalent expressions or the exponents in all languages, and they actually did research with more than 30 other languages, and some of them are English, Russian, French, Polish, Spanish, Italian, Arabic, Malay, Japanese, Chinese, Korean, and Vietnamese. So they're actually now coming to terms that with the fact that Western and non-Western languages have significant conceptual differences. That's not my tongue, right? So let me give you just an overview of the primes. I, you, someone, something, body, people, kind, words, say, want, don't want, feel, see, hear, think, happen, there is, be somewhere, be someone, be something, be someone's, live, die, move, touch, inside, one, two, much, and many. So notice that there is no 3 or 4, so it's like many from 1 and 2. Can, because, if, maybe, and so on. There are 65 of them at the moment. So what they are also saying, what this brought them afterwards, is that they want to. They are using the same grammatical principles of the natural language in this basic. This is why it's called the natural semantic metalanguage, because they're using the natural grammatics that occurs in the language. They want to implement it in the basics. So the way you combine the basics is the very principle of us communicating in the natural language. So in this syntax, the combinational properties are the making the pattern and the word order and so on. So they came to organize or propose a minimal English. So what they want to do now is they want to stripe English from all the multiple meanings that you can get from one word, because they want to they're basically Anna Wierzbicka and Tim Godard. They actually are anti Anglo speakers. They do not like that we're using English in such an extent proportions. So they're saying if we are going to use English to talk about human rights, then we should better find a really good form of constructing English language so that any citizen of the planet can understand us in a proper manner. So this is one of the So they actually say that there are 400 words in the minimal English. So this is actually how they explain the minimal English by using minimal English. There are 2 kinds of English words. Words of one kind are like this. If someone says something with these English words, many people in many places on earth can know well what this someone wants to say. There are not many words of this kind. When someone says something with English words of this kind, the someone is saying it in minimal English. And this is how they, for instance, explain Earth. So in this little passage, Earth is understood as the global consciousness. It is good if people think like this about the Earth. I don't know how to say it. No, it's not. Okay. There are many people on Earth. They live in many places on Earth. If many people do some things in places where they live, something very bad can happen to the Earth. Because of this, I don't want to do the same. I don't want to do some things in the place where I live. It sounds close. Reading about all of this, so this was all proposed in an article that was called "The Hazards of English as Default Language." So this brought me to George Orwell and Newspeak from the 1984. That is basically constructed in the same way, and maybe you didn't know, but George Orwell in the 40s proposed the same basic English, where he said we should, the English is being polluted, we should clean it. There are plenty of meaningless words, and there's a pretentious diction and rhetoric to English. There are dying metaphors, and English now is encouraging unclear thought and reasoning. So, to finish all of this, so he actually, in his essay, Politics in the English Language, rejected previously promoted construct of basic English. And just so I give a bit of an insight what his basic English is, I will define the word doublethink from the Newspeak. And this is the passage from the book. To know and not to know, to be conscious of complete truthfulness while telling carefully constructed lies, to hold simultaneously 2 opinions which cancel out, knowing them to be contradictory and believing in both of them, to use logic against logic, to repudiate morality while laying claim to it, to believe that democracy is impossible and that the party was the guardian of democracy, to forget whatever it was necessary to forget, then to draw it back into memory again at the moment when it was needed, and then promptly to forget it again, and above all, to apply the same process to the process itself. That was the ultimate subtlety, consciously to induce unconsciousness, and then once again to become unconscious of the act of hypnosis you had just performed. Even to understand the words double-think involved the use of double-think. Yeah, so yeah, they were kind of there. Yeah, any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Is love a prime word?
I don't think so.
Whoa.
Oh.
It's a Western option.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's not. No, I'm sorry. I have to. Yeah. Now nothing makes sense anymore. No, but I just wanted to point out that, for instance, some non-Western languages actually do not have a concept for hungry, for instance, or they don't have a concept for dead. So if we were to use word dead in any law thing that was international, those people might not understand that.
For privacy.
Ooh.
Privacy. It's the word that exists in less languages.
Really?
Yeah.
But what language does not recognize the word death?
No, not death.
Dead.
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 To be dead.
Already
Dead.
That doesn't exist in their.
No, but maybe away.
A what?
Away or empty.
Maybe, but that's not the same concept.
But what languages, for example, don't have the word dead in them?
I don't know. They didn't explain it. Yeah, I'm actually against this. I'm against the primes and the basic English. I think it's impossible. This is why I read double think. Even to say double think means that you're double thinking. So you cannot ever strip the word from its meaning, from the multiples of meaning. You know, that would just kill us all.
All right.